Swaggy with the sound, it's swaggy with the sound, it's a spoiler time.
No, Danae, I'm sorry. Andrew gets to do the Spoiler Cast theme song now.
I wasn't trying to butt in.
Andrew, hit us with that Spoiler Cast theme song.
People are strange when you're a doctor. Faces are ugly when you're Mad Mickelson.
Yes!
Woo!
It is the Siftpop Spoiler Cast episode on Doctor Strange, where the theme song is different every single week.
And I don't even like the Doors.
Because we don't want to give anything away. You don't like the Doors?
No.
I don't know.
Overrated.
How do you get from one room to the next?
I punch a hole in the wall.
I only do windows.
I have
No, guys, you'd make a portal.
Yeah, I make a portal.
That's right.
Yeah.
You get your sling ring out.
I get my sling ring.
Start
How much
throwing
fun do you think that they had with the special effects, with fireworks and bandsaws?
I'm thinking lots of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The second...
It's a spoiler
What's it
cast.
called?
We're going straight to the very last thing
very,
at the
very
end
last
of the
thing
credits.
at the end. Yeah, the second credit extra scene starts off with the spinny thing, which we see, when they're casting spells.
Yeah, it looks
kind
like
of
sparklers.
sparks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
But that scene starts with those same sparks,
But-
but they're from a saw. And I was
Yeah.
like, that's how they got all the special effects. They just used a saw against metal, and now they're showing us behind the scenes. No, it was an extra. It was an extra scene.
So, first spoiler alert, that second one, just all that's there is to indicate who the bad guy for the second Doctor Strange movie is, right? Like
Which I knew before going in because Mordo is the arch nemesis in the comic. He is the number one villain of Doctor Strange.
I kept thinking you were saying Mordor.
No,
So-
Mordo.
There was a
Chiwetel Ejiofor's character.
I know this is definitely skipping around, and I don't mean to
No, that's
ruin your
fine.
spoiler cast.
No. We skip around.
But there was also the appearance of Bane in this movie.
What?
My least favorite part was when they were in the time loop against the big bad guy, this big nebulous creature or whatever.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
he was speaking in that crazy... I couldn't understand what he was saying.
Oh, Batman.
Yeah, so I was like, Bane, no!
The bane of your existence.
was born in the darkness, Doctor Strange.
Anyway.
So basically, we'll kind of run through. I feel like there's too much here to get into the nitty gritty.
Challenge accepted.
Right.
ahead.
Let's do it.
So, Dr. Stephen Strange is an incredibly gifted surgeon.
Brain
the best
surgeon.
in the world. He
All kinds
is,
of surgeon.
Yeah, unparalleled. And did you catch the little hint to a flight or a pilot who, in a man suit, had been shot down?
No,
Like when he was in a car?
no.
Okay, so when he was in the car, and they were like, give me my newest case. And they're like, well, you have this one over here.
He's like, not interested, not
Yeah, not
interested.
interested.
When
Then
he's
he-
driving that fancy car like a million miles an hour on curvy roads, and I always
Exactly.
go, what?
I don't know why-
Who's that stupid?
Kids,
So-
don't drive and look at x-rays at the same time.
Exactly.
In the rain. On
And
a
he was
curvy
saying,
road.
I'm not interested
At
in
100
this.
miles
One
an
of
hour.
them is what he was like this man in a pilot suit was shot down. Now he's crippled and stuff. He was talking about Rhodes from Civil War when he got shot down by Vision.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys caught that or
No,
not.
I didn't catch that at all.
Yeah, so
That's
they were talking about
interesting.
how he got
I
Rhodes,
saw the
Don
Avengers
Cheadle's
building.
character.
I saw the Avengers building in the
Yeah, Stark
the skyline.
Yeah, Stark Tower.
Mm-hmm.
But so he is on his way to an award ceremony to get an honor for himself, pretty much. Gets in a terrible car accident that crushes his hands,
Yeah.
leaving insane nerve damage, and he is unable to be a surgeon anymore, and he turns to every corner of the world to
AKA
find
he
a way.
also turns into Dr. House.
Yes, he turns into Dr. House. You, Lori. Everybody watch Chance. So he is done looking at Western medicine to try and heal himself, so he turns towards the East and the quote-unquote mysticism, though he doesn't believe in it yet. But he hears tell about a man who went to the Far East who was crippled by a spinal injury, and he is now able to walk.
The man not coincidentally, but the man I should say who is in that final credit scene
Yeah.
later on.
Yeah,
So,
he went, and I can't remember the name that they use. Does it start with a K?
I don't know.
So
it was in Kathmandu, but
but
it was
he
a
was-
specific area.
Yeah, he was
Kaminsha or
Kaminsha. He was looking for like this special word.
yeah.
And the guy who was able to heal himself, he went there and learned how to manipulate, basically a sorcerer of types, how to manipulate energy and constantly be healing his own body so that he could walk again. He chose not to stay like many of the others do, and kind of fight the good fight of protecting basically humanity from
the darkness.
ethereal, but not just the darkness, people who visit who aren't supposed to be there. Because in the first kind of post-credit scene, Doctor Strange is very interested in getting aliens just back to where they're supposed to go. So I think that they're just trying to protect Earth from all these kinds of forces. But he goes there and meets the Ancient One.
Which, by the way, what you said in the podcast about the Ancient One in the comics is an old Miyagi type man.
Yeah.
Makes that joke when he walks in, the Switch, so much better.
Oh, yeah, that's
because,
so true.
If you had read the comics, you would think that's what the Ancient One looked like. So it's not only a joke on Benedict Cumberbatch, it's a joke on the audience as well.
Yeah, those who might know the story well.
So, So he goes, he finds the Ancient One. The Ancient One turns out is Tilda Swinton's character. She
says no.
Yeah.
Because you're an arrogant jerk.
Which he was. Gets him out. And then he stays there anyway. And so his perseverance leads him back in. Plus, we come to find out later, she's, been to the future so many times. She knows he's a part of what's, going to be happening and going on. She's just playing her role.
She doesn't want it to pan out the way because of, later on.
Mm-hmm. The Ancient One has been around for a very, very long time. No one really knows how long, but it's obvious that she has mastered a lot of power. And you see that when they first interact. So when Doctor Strange first comes.
Is that the trippiest part of the movie?
Yeah, for sure, right?
Oh, yeah.
Where
undoubtedly.
Hands growing out of fingers,
that was
growing
like
out of
Dark
hands.
Tunnel, Willy Wonka, Chocolate Factory, Dark Tunnel craziness.
Yeah, it was seriously crazy.
The hands turning into fingers, turning into hands.
Turning into his eye, turning his face.
When he grabbed onto his iris.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a movie. This is what I meant. And seriously, don't do drugs. This is a very bad thing. But
you don't have to. You can just go see this movie.
Go see the movie. You will now know what an acid trip could feel like. I feel like this is a pretty... that was a crazy sequence of events, but here she is. You see her power, and I loved the visual effects on anything to kind of do with her. Kind of just to backtrack, just for overlaid kind of in this, the start of the movie actually is seeing the bad guys go into a library and steal a spell.
Yeah.
And then there's this chase scene. We don't know it's the Ancient One, but there's this really cool power battle. That was awesome. I was like, what kind of a movie is this going to be? That was like the start to kind of start it off. And then as he gets into his own training, we kind of go back into that world for the first time, because in between the start of the movie and here is when we're developing his character as this doctor and the crash, like you've described for us.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a neat thing. So we're kind of back into this learning about all these powers and these dimensions, and and then of course he's really interested in it. And this is where his character starts to lose it for me just a little bit, where I don't know how to connect with him as a character as he's learning. And I kind of brought this up in the show proper, but he goes to like training sequences, and there's been some really cool training sequences in many, many movies.
Yeah, cool Rocky montages.
Yeah, this one wasn't one for me.
No, I totally agree.
Well, but here's the difference, and I think it's purposeful. I think the difference is purposeful, and I would agree with the sentiment of what you're saying. But for this character, he is so disconnected from
care.
He has lived his life making fun of what they do. He has lived so in matter is everything. There is no metaphysical for so long.
Well, he has no good relationships with people in general.
Right.
He's just so self-absorbed.
He's so self-absorbed that he can't pick up any of this. And so what's purposeful is he sucks at this. Like, he can't do it.
But then all of a sudden he doesn't.
But that's purpose. What I'm saying is that's purposeful.
How did that happen?
Because
I agree with Danae.
No, I agree with what both of you are saying. What I'm saying is they did it on purpose. That it's not an accident. What they are thinking, I believe, is that for him, his character, the only way to learn how to do this is to have to do it. To have to conquer it yourself without training.
I guess I understand that. And that is consistent for the rest of the movie, that he is basically forced to save lives. He's forced to fight for his own life. He accidentally comes to the cloak. Like, all these things are sort of, him basically fumbling around. It's not like he came into some great superhero power.
Yeah.
And really, his power is his brain, which we come to understand he has that photogenic memory. So he's looking at all these books and he wants to read all these books. And he can access all this information because he's read it. But we don't get to see the transformation of him using the power, because I kind of want to have an ancient one. You know what I mean? Like she was rad.
Yeah.
But he's not that. Also I don't know that I
he
believe
is now, but
yeah, he is. But or is he the great sword? I don't know what he is.
See,
now.
for him, his training was a switch. And once he understood that it was real and
the
he could
Everest
get past
moment
that,
you can call.
Yeah, it was after that he could do anything because he could read so quickly. He could once the switch was turned on in him.
Okay, can I ask you guys what you thought? Because this is the other thing I struggled with. What do you think his switch was to turn from who he was into somebody who was willing to make the great sacrifice, time loop, and die over and over again for humanity? I didn't.
That was progressive. That wasn't a switch.
Yeah.
Was there a moment when he had a revelation? I cannot think of a moment
I think it was
when he
all
had
the
a
moments
revelation.
he was talking to Mordo and like learning more about what it means and how there is a greater purpose to not only his life but the life of the planet and the people there. And yes, he is a doctor, so he took an oath to save lives. And Mordo is kind of playing on that, like, well, if you want to save lives, this is going to be your greatest calling right here.
Yeah, I guess I can see that too.
One of the themes that stood out to me that I think the movie is trying to get us to buy into is the idea of free will and the idea of where power comes from. And because what the movie seems to be saying is you can play in the darkness if your purpose is light. I see a little bit of that with what the Ancient One did to continue to have her lives and how he's buying into that, because our main bad guy, if it's now going to be Mordo, his whole point is you can't break the rules. You got, it has to be legalistic. By the book. And I think what the movie wants us to play with is the idea that it's not that cut and dry, that you have to, exist in some sort of nebulous universe. I
really liked that. So after he's kind of trained and he, begins to read books, he starts to kind of play around with power. And there's just to kind of progress through the specifics of the movie. He gets this eye, which I guess is a Infinity Stone. Thank you, movie, for spelling that out for me at one point in time, because I would have totally missed that. I would have no idea. Do you know what Infinity Stone it is?
Yeah, that's all leading to the Thanos.
No, but like there's different ones.
Yeah, there's certain ones in the universe.
Do you know which one that one is?
I don't know the specific
I don't know
stone.
either. Okay.
So we've been introduced to three or four. So Vision is an Infinity Stone.
Right.
The Guardians of the Galaxy had their Infinity Stone
that was
they
the purple
gave to
one or something.
Yeah, and then this one, and
wasn't there one in the Loki?
Yeah, but that's the one that's Vision now, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
But I think Odin also has one,
which is probably why they're searching for him in the next.
Well, that's the next Thor. Ragnarok.
Yeah.
Which that was a fun thing to learn, but we'll get to that.
So. It turns out that Mads Mikkelsen's character, he and his necromancers want to unleash this dark energy called Dormammu onto our planet, where they believe they will be able to live forever.
Right.
So I kind of like the villain in a film that believes they're doing everything for the right reason.
And this guy is the one that at the very beginning of the movie, went to the library and stole the spell to basically begin to communicate and gain the power to defeat the Ancient One so that he could take over.
Exactly. And we find out that there's 3 pillars that are protecting our world from Dormammu and the darkness, and they're in Hong Kong, New York, and London.
And these sorcerers are the ones that are located at each of these pillars, and they're the ones that are kind of charged with protecting it no matter kind of what comes in.
Exactly.
We've also seen already by this point that this Infinity Stone that he wears allows him to manipulate time. He does some cool stuff with an apple.
Well, he only has that for a minute. Like he got that accidental, like.
And then Wong and Mordo are like, never mess with time. It can create time loops, and you could be stuck in there forever.
Right, which is obviously, plays a part in the final.
And I thought
battle.
that was a little too on the nose whenever they did it. I'm like, well, we know what's going to save the day now.
I think every movie does that.
I think every movie does that. They're like, never do that again. It could create something. And you're like, oh, well, then that's what's going to save the day. So
these bad guys, the what are they?
I'll just call them the necromancers.
The necromancers, they show up at each of these pillars to attack.
Yeah.
And so just in that moment, whenever Doctor Strange had put on this amulet and started to kind of manipulate the forces of life and death and forwards and backwards. I don't know what you call it. Whatever.
He's basically spinning the reverse forward knob on
but very specifically.
And he gets
specifically because he's aiming it at like when this comes again later on, he can bring people out and into that presence. So
yes.
And then there's an attack, and he's blown through a portal. So now he has this Infinity Stone, and he's suddenly in London.
Yeah.
Which was that was kind of fun. That whole action scene, when we kind of got to the action, I was like, "Whoa, this is kind of picking up." I'm enjoying myself.
That's Mr. Doctor.
Yeah, that was good.
Mr. Doctor.
That was one of the times I thought there was a little humor.
That was throughout the whole movie. There was stuff like that.
So he's fighting.
There really was.
He's fighting Mads Mikkelsen and his necromancers in London, which at first I thought was B. Baker Street, which is where Sherlock lives, but it's Bleecker Street. So I was like, oh, they're doing it, and then they didn't. I got excited for a little bit. So he technically defeats everybody. He locks up Mads Mikkelsen's character in this really weird, like,
another piece of humor.
Holding device. After the cloak shows
but
him.
after he gets his magic carpet cloak that has a mind of its own.
I love this Clark.
Which I didn't know anything about the cloak from the comics, so I didn't know that it was alive.
It's like imbued. It's like a power.
What do they call them?
Relics.
A relic. And it chose him, but only after breaking through glass.
And Wong and the Ancient One and Mordo are like, wow, the cloak chose you. It normally doesn't choose anybody.
What is it? Because it's fickle.
Yeah,
the levitation.
Yeah,
cloak
of levitation.
I think that's what it's called. Yeah, and that was one of my favorite characters because I just loved it. It was like, oh, I like this thing.
Yeah.
It's like Blanky from movies that I saw when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was cute.
So then Doctor Strange is like, well, I don't trust the Ancient One anymore because now that I've seen what she can do, it stands to reason that she herself is tapping into this dark energy to control.
Because he read that book.
Because he read the book.
Mm-hmm.
And then it turns out he was right and that the Ancient One was, in fact, using this dark energy. So then we're introduced to another battle. Oh,
that's what Aaron was kind of referencing in the themes of this movie, is that the Ancient One can tap into a power that gives her the ability of long life or never-ending life. But she also resists the temptations that certainly come with dark magic to use it to manipulate her power. She's still defending humanity. She's still defending the natural order of things, and she's all about doing that.
It's really a conversation lots of people have all the time.
Yeah,
do the ends justify the means?
I liked that. And I didn't mind that the Ancient One was using that because we saw, I feel like what little we kind of really interacted with her, because I wanted to interact with her way more.
Yeah, she was so good.
Yeah, it was a really, really fun character. She had that element of she was reserved just enough so you didn't know what she was thinking, but her words were trying to build up. And so I kind of was like, yeah, you're fine. You can use dark magic. I give you permission. But then these other guys, as Doctor Strange said, look at your eyes. Like they have obviously gone. They went too far. they took it a little too far.
So before actually the second battle with Mads Mikkelsen's character, Doctor Strange dies, and he separates his ethereal body from his physical body, and he starts having this battle inside
in the astral
plane.
So there are three.
And that's the part I was talking about where it was trying to add too much humor and stuff to the movie, with the scene with him and Rachel McAdams and like him fighting the other guy and the jumping and stuff. I'm like, well, you're trying a little too hard.
Or him in the Wong stuff, or like where his arms
I like
reaching
that
through.
Stuff. I like that.
No, but it's humor.
It's humor. Yeah, you're right. It is humor.
That one finally had a payoff about Wong and the books and him constantly.
I'm not talking about humor not working. I'm talking about this movie was full of humor. There was a lot of humor in this movie.
Mm-hmm. You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of the first Thor movie where that kind of wasn't. I didn't think that movie was going to be as funny as it was. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, I'm pleasantly surprised. I do think that Doctor Strange tried a little too hard with some of the humor. Not a lot of it, just a little over the edge on the humor.
Maybe this is not, because we're trying to kind of do a quick spoiler here, but when he goes in because he's in London, or maybe he sometimes gets to New York, he teleports himself
sling ring
to go into the hospital because he's just been stabbed. Mm-hmm. Because he's just not prepared to fight these guys. Let's just be honest.
Yeah.
He fumbles his way through this one.
Cloak helps a lot.
He is on the table physical body. He moves into the astral plane on purpose, and then he moves into a visual astral plane where a human being can see him, and he's kind of peeking through that next level. And then he goes, I'm going to have to disappear. And so he disappears from Rachel McAdams' character, who is saving his life on the operating table, and goes to the astral plane level where he has a battle with somebody else that's trying to come at him.
One of the necromancers, and then who also went to the astral plane.
Right. And then it's ghost versus ghost, which was I
didn't like it.
It was okay. I mean, it's like whatever. We're seeing, another element of, I guess, just this world. Like they want us to understand that people can do astral plane.
So they introduced us to the astral plane. They also introduced us to the mirror.
The mirror,
which was technically one of the first things introduced. We didn't know what was happening at that time.
Right.
Yes, that's true.
So the mirror world it looks exactly like our world, except it can be changed. And what they find out is
without ramification on
without
the world.
ramifications. And what they find out is that Mads Mikkelsen's character has learned how to change the physical aspects of the real world outside of the mirror world. And that's what they're trying to stop, because if he does that, he has the ability to open up the world to Dormammu.
I didn't pick that up at all.
Oh, they said that, and they said that in the movie.
That's good.
I thought they all were able to change the actual real world.
Nope,
they just
only
didn't
the mirror
because
world.
of the consequences.
Now, they can only change the mirror world.
Okay, cool.
So, they have their second battle with Dormammu.
Let's just describe for a split second that means Inception on crack. Like, that's
it
when
was so crazy.
The roads are shifting, and all of a sudden it's turning
Escher
into
meets Inception.
Yeah.
And there's always something to look at, and then there's just things floating around the air, and you literally can't look at one thing for more than a second because everything's shifting and changing.
Exactly.
So,
Kaleidoscope on crack.
Yeah, it was quite an adventure whenever he go into that area.
So Mordo and Doctor Strange are fighting Mads Mikkelsen, and they're losing. All of a sudden, the Ancient One shows up in the mirror world, and that's when it's revealed, yes, she is using the dark magic, and Mads Mikkelsen kills her. But before she dies, she goes to the astral plane. Strange follows her there, and she tries to justify her actions, and then she convinces him to continue this fight. And so Strange goes back, finds out that 2 of the pillars have fallen now. The London one and the New York pillars have fallen.
Let's not skip her death scene, because it was one of the most powerful scenes in the movie for me.
Okay, yeah, it definitely was. Go ahead.
Her standing on the balcony as time is at the slightest crawl, and there's a helicopter in the air, and you see all the details of how the lightning is, in the storm and the rain, and they're standing there talking. I found that to be moving. It was really the only part of, maybe not the only, but it was the only part that I remember thinking, this is beautiful. Like both visually and emotionally. And I think if there is a moment where we're supposed to see his character grow in one moment, I think it's that moment.
You're right. Yeah. It is that moment. And thank you for saying so, because I was struggling to find it. You're absolutely right. I think he really respected the Ancient One. I think he really looked into kind of, who she is and what she represented and what she did. So I agree that moment was really powerful and beautiful too. And I like that they gave her the emotion and the humanity, because she was so, ancient and perfect and everything. And now here she has this element where she's like, I've seen this moment over and over and over again. It all comes down to this. And here I want to just try to watch the snow fall.
It really humanized her.
It did. It did.
Yeah, I thought it was beautiful.
I think you're right. That was the moment, I think, when Doctor Strange kind of realized that he has a power and an ability to take up a charge. And then, we're zapped right back into their world. We're zapped right back into the fight. We're zapped right back into kind of what has to happen.
And that pretty much takes us to the final battle, right?
Yeah, so they realize Hong Kong is the only last standing bastion of safety. So they go to Hong Kong, and they're like, oh man, we're too late. They've already destroyed it. So Doctor Strange realizes, well, you told me not to use the time loop.
Good thing I don't pay attention to the rules.
Good thing I don't pay attention. So he turns,
I love the effects on that.
It's so cool.
Around
Turning
his
back
arm
time.
and
That.
so cool.
Well, the whole thing of the destruction of Hong Kong and it was bad,
and
guys.
It's so detailed.
And then when it goes backwards,
that was the best part
seeing
of the whole movie for me. Was turning back of time and then fighting everything in reverse. So
there's this corpse that's in the street that zips back through a car windshield and then into the car.
Crazy.
And you're just like, oh, God. And there's so much death and destruction and chaos. It's all getting reversed back together in this crazy, chaotic scene. And at the same time, there is a real life fight going on where the necromancers are still in the same, I guess, kind of dimension with Doctor Strange and Wong and Mordo.
Yeah.
Help me.
Okay.
Everybody who's fighting with Doctor Strange, he does something to pull them out of the time manipulation. He does a thing. How did what we're calling
They're
necromancers, how were they able to pull themselves out
They
of the
did
manipulation?
themselves.
But how?
No, Mads Mikkelsen himself had the ability to, and then after he got out, he got his other necromancers in.
But how? Like, how does he
I
have
don't
that
know.
ability?
I'm not a sorcerer,
All right, so it's just a
Aaron.
It's just a missing piece for me because it seems like that is something specific.
Well, I think it was because he was aware of what was going on. There was a moment whenever
He's
he
like,
saw the
"No."
spell happening, and I think he could feel himself reversing, and he came into presence somehow. That's kind of because you can kind of see him morph out. It is a rad, intense scene. And we kind of get to the end of it, and something clicks when I believe it was Mordor or the main necromancer bad guy.
What
said
happened
something
that he
about
realized
time.
he couldn't?
Someone said something like it's outside of time.
No, but there was
Yeah.
something before that he realized he couldn't take it all the way back or something. Why was that?
Well, his spell
Film-
thing got broken.
Yeah,
Oh, okay, that's what it was. Yeah.
The
something
spell that
about-
was
yeah,
around
yeah.
his arm got
because Mads Mikkelsen did that huge shockwave
Yeah,
thing.
the
Yeah,
shockwave
that's
Knocked
what it
him
was.
out.
and so it knocked him out. He comes back too, and he's just kind of like trying to figure out what to go. Everything's frozen in time at that point.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if is that a universal frozen in time?
No,
No,
it
I
was
think
just
it's
our
Hong
plane.
Kong.
Our plane was frozen.
Just Hong Kong or like the Earth?
Earth
Don't
was
make
frozen.
me think about that. It's
No,
got to be Earth.
But
'cause
here,
there's-
so
Yeah, I'm just
okay,
going
well,
with
hold
Earth.
on a second. So let's go with Earth. So then he goes to this other plane
I'm going
to
to go with our
address
universe was frozen.
to talk to the main bad
Dormammu.
guy, Dormammu.
Yeah.
And
Best
he
part of the movie.
puts himself into a time loop so that even if he dies, it's constant time loop where he comes back.
right.
Dormammu, I've
he-
come to bargain.
So he's outside of time, which is the appeal for the necromancers, but he brings time himself there and does a time loop. Okay, so this is kind of like the final battle.
Right.
Yeah.
And he says in that, as long as I'm here, humanity goes on.
Yeah.
But does humanity go on if it's all frozen? No.
Yeah, I don't know.
So that
Apparently,
bothered me.
maybe. I don't know.
So
That's the one thing that kind of bugged me. I was like, but if it's frozen, then humanity isn't going on. We're all frozen in
Here's
time.
what's cool. Can
while
I just
you're
say
in
what's
this
cool?
time loop.
Can I just say what's cool? I love having this conversation afterwards, and to know that there are parts of all of this where it's just like, what? Huh? What's really like if you really explore it. But here's what I love. I didn't have any of those thoughts during the movie
I did.
was
I had
just,
that one.
because I was just into what
Yeah.
was happening.
Yeah.
And I think that says a lot about the movie itself.
Yeah.
But if
I did like that the idea of a human being using his brain facility to figure out that there's a time loop option here, that even though essentially it does trap this great being
Yeah.
that's outside of time.
which we've seen before.
Have we?
Yeah, in Guardians of the Galaxy.
I wondered. He looked familiar.
The giant head that they go into.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's like a same type of being as those giant heads that they went into in Guardians of the Galaxy. So
I knew I'd seen it before.
to expand on that, Strange realizes he can't beat Mads Mikkelsen because they've frozen time. And he's like, well, the being that they want to go and live with forever, he lives outside of time. What would happen if I introduced that being to time? So he goes to that he goes into the darkness where this Dormammu, this great world universe ender, lives. And he's like, I've come to bargain. And Dormammu kills him.
over.
And then he comes back.
And
he's
over.
like, I've come to bargain. And then he's like, wait, I thought I just killed you. He's like, yeah, I introduced a time loop. You're here with me forever. You can kill me as many times as you want. I'll just keep coming back. You are now my prisoner. And Dormammu was like, let me go. He's like, nope, I've come to bargain. You leave the Earth alone. You can take your necromancers and they can live with you forever, but you leave the rest of Earth alone. He's like, fine. He sends him back. Dormammu takes the necromancers and Mads Mikkelsen, and he like disintegrates them.
They turn into some sort of just like dark creature, and they get
Yeah.
sucked into the
just become part
dark
of the dark.
ether.
And Dormammu leaves them alone. And this is the thing I loved about this movie. I love the fact that they introduced a character finally in Marvel that could not be physically defeated. There is no way the Avengers or
Can't just fly
Strange-
a spaceship with a bomb into it
Yeah.
and explode
Right.
it. Yeah.
nothing can defeat Dormammu. He is too powerful. You can only trick him. And that's what they had to end up doing.
And I'm guessing that'll be the same, as we kind of go towards Thanos and those
Yeah.
kind of things. I guess that'll probably be more and more
Also, the big payoff happens here when Doctor Strange watches the necromancers get sucked up into the ether, and he's like, you guys really should have taken the entire book instead of the spell, because the warnings were after the spell. So and then Wong finally laughs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that's the whole thing in the whole movie is he can't make Wong laugh.
Part. I did that was fun. Yeah. And it was really fun to see Wong laugh.
Yeah.
And also the character who plays Wong's last name is Wong.
Yeah, Benedict Wong is his name.
Yeah.
Benedict Wong. Yeah, really good actor.
So really here at the end of the movie, what we find is that Doctor Strange is now
He's also in The Martian, isn't he? Sorry, I just had that thought.
He is now the master over the pillar of New York.
Yeah.
So he's kind of set up there in New York, and he's taken up the charge of protecting. He returns the Infinity Stone.
Well, technically now he's Sorcerer Supreme.
But they didn't say that.
They didn't say that in the movie.
Yeah, they did once. They say he's going to be once he masters it, because the necklace allowed him to use it. So he's like, well, only the Sorcerer Supreme can use that necklace.
So it's kind of like indicating that he's going that
direction.
He
puts it back. Yeah,
he puts it back. You're right. Yeah.
In Kathmandu, like that, wherever that one, the training place or whatever, where the ancient one was, it goes kind of back there.
But then, Chimichanga, whatever it's called, yeah.
Yeah. So he kind of takes his place, and I liked that final scene of him kind of rising up the steps, taking kind of his like charge and looking out the window, and he's got tears in his eyes. I think when the magic carpet wiped his tears?
No, that was earlier.
Okay. I liked that part too.
Yeah. And then the movie ends, and then we get an immediate credit scene where he is sitting down having tea and beer with Thor. He's like,
kind of interviewing him, like, so how long are you guys going to be here? Because I'm kind of trying to keep track of all the aliens. So
yeah, and Benedict Cumberbatch, Strange, I should say, is like, why have you brought Loki here? We know he's bad. And then Thor is like, we're looking for Odin. We're looking for my father. He's like, and as soon as you find Odin, you guys are going to be gone, right? And Thor's like, yeah, we find him, we're gone. And he's like, well, good, I'm going to help you. So now we know Doctor Strange is going to be in Thor Ragnarok, along with Mark Ruffalo, who plays the Hulk.
Very cool.
I'm so stoked for Thor Ragnarok now.
Yeah, I got excited for Thor. That actually kind of made me excited to see the movie. And that was a really smart tie-in, because it's been a minute since I've really, been into a Thor movie. So
yeah, well, it's been a minute since there's been a Thor movie.
It'll be the third one, right?
It'll be the third, yeah.
The final end credit scene has Mordo showing up and taking the sorcerer's power back from the guy who had been using it to heal himself.
Yeah. Dude just wants to walk.
Yeah.
Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
And I think what that was to set up the fact that we now know that Mordo is the villain.
Good.
He's taken a guy's ability to walk away.
I think it's a beautiful exploration of the negative effect of legalism. I think it's that character could be a really interesting character to me, because the idea of pursuing truth so hard that you become evil is really interesting to me.
So we did skip that, and I apologize to everybody. So after Strange defeats Dormammu, and he gets Mads Mikkelsen and the Necromancer is gone, Mordo's not happy. He's like, yes, you defeated him, but you did it by defying the laws of nature, and that's everything that we've always stood against. I can't be on the same path as you. And Mordo leaves after they win. Yeah. He's like, I can't do this.
And that's where it begins.
Arch
enemies forevermore.
And he says, I finally understand what's wrong in the world. There's too many sorcerers.
Yeah. Which is a bummer, because I was like, hey, if this place exists, this looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah. You wanted to become a sorcerer?
I just want to make one of those cool orange shields.
Yeah, man. Those were awesome.
Amazing. Well, thanks, guys.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Siftpop Spoilers. Yay, I got to say it.
Siftpop Spoiler Cast. We'll catch you next time. I think we're off next week.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And then Siftpop will be back the Friday after that, and we'll let you know the movie.
We're off next week.
Yeah. What did you want to talk about?
I think that's when Arrival comes out, and that's my most anticipated movie of the year.
We can talk about it the next week. Absolutely. If Arrival's out next week, we'll talk about it the following week.
Okay. Well, I'm on my way to the movies right now. So.
All right. Well, go have fun. I'm going to have lunch.
Me too.
Lunch.
Me too.
Lunch.
Me too.